So I'm in front of a camera again. It's been more than a year and a half since I built the test system that I've been using for the performance analyses. And at that time, most of that stuff I bought, but Cooler Master did send me this, the CK550 with Gator Brown switches in it. It's a pretty nice full-size keyboard. I do like it. It's got this nice aluminum plate there. I actually do like full-size keyboards because I do use the number pad. But this isn't about this keyboard. This video is about an idea I had a while ago, which is that, I said this has Gator Brown switches in it. My Razer keyboard that's on my desktop upstairs, it's got Razer's brand of switches in there. And a lot of pre-built keyboards you get out there will have cherries. So, yeah, but there's a lot more switches than just that out there. But in order to try them, you need a special keyboard that can take those switches. And in most cases, that means you're going to have to build your own keyboard. So I reached out to some places and got that. Which, this is what was wrapped around the cardboard box that's currently down there. It's the NovelKeys NK65 Entry Edition. Almost wanted to say NK95, which is, well, I don't think a thing, but the Entry Edition costs $95. And by the way, I have it already assembled. It'll, at the point I'm recording this, time travel, yay. Some of the later parts of the video, you'll see me putting it together. Unfortunately, this is the second time I've had to do all these recordings because the cameras kind of got upset. So you don't have the full assembly, but, enough. So this is what it looks like. It is a fairly simple keyboard, and it has some very, very nice features. But first, just looking at the outside, the case is polycarbonate. It has these silicone strips there to help keep it from moving, and on this surface it moves a little bit, but it's not easy. You're not going to move it while typing. If I opened it up, you can kind of see here that there's a pad in here, and I don't know if it'll show up here, but it's basically a silicone wedge from here to here, and it's the full space between the bottom of this case and where the PCB is. It's silicone to dampen the sound of your typing. Now the keyboard itself does not come with switches and does not come with keycaps. These keycaps also were not provided, but the switches were. These are NovelKey Creams, which are linear switches, NovelKey Blueberries, tactile switches, and Kale Box Jades, which are clicky, and then these four are Silk Yellows, which are also NovelKey switches. And these are linear. What is different between these two? These are lubed from the factory with Krytox 205G0. These are not lubed. And these are what I have in here. And there's a reason why. Because, as I said, the NK65 is $95, and it has a hot swap PCB. So I can actually go in with tools like this, which I found a bit easier to use, and this, and that's going to be later in the video, to actually pull out the switches so I can put in a different one. I'm starting with the silks here, the Silk Yellow, because there's going to be a special version, a special edition of the NK65, the Entry Edition, so the case will be polycarbonate, called the Milkshake Edition. Now, what's going to be really neat about that one is it will come with switches already in it, specifically the Silk Yellows, though they will not use yellow stems. They'll actually be multicolored to match the Milkshake keycaps. That's what they're called, and they're dye-sub keycaps. These are, I did have to buy these. Got them from Drop, which also makes their own keyboards, including a 65% like this, though its layout is a little different. They come in a tray like this. It's actually kind of nice packaging. I mean, there are better ways to hold keycaps than this, but for this being how it came, very nice because I can easily, put them in, take them out. And I did actually spend some time, because I had them before I had the NK65. I did have spent some time with those keycaps on the Cooler Master board, and it is quite a difference. It really is. I mean, nothing against those keycaps that come on that Cool Master keyboard, but they are, I like the feel of these better, and I like the sound of them better, because they do sound different. So I mentioned how the Drop does also sell keyboards, including the Alt, which is also a 65% keyboard like this, which means it has not only the alphanumerics in the bottom row, but it also has the arrow keys squeezed in and these navigation keys. But the Alt only has 2 keys in this spot. You may not be able to see it at this distance, but this says print screen, scroll, lock, and pause. These are not print screen, scroll, lock, and pause keys. What they are is, for how I have it programmed, basically the FN key. So that's on this the equivalent of this key. So if I hit that, then it will change what the other keys do. Like if I hold that down, then no, that'll still be escape, but F1, F2, F3, and so on. The menu key, because I do use the menu key when I'm typing, and Control. Whereas if you got something like the Alt, still 65% keyboard, but instead of 3 1U keys, you have 2 1.25 keys, 1.25U keys, which is, that's how wide these keycaps are. So this is actually a standard full-size ANSI keyboard layout. This is a little bit non-standard. It still is ANSI. It still is ANSI, but it's a little different. Oh, and what is ANSI? That's basically the dominant key map, key layout for America. There's also ISO that you can get in 60% size, which 60% is basically no arrow keys, no navigation keys, but the whole there. You can also get something called HHKB, where it loses some keys down there, but it's about the same size. Trying to remember if there's anything else to really go over. Yeah, so this keycap set isn't what I want permanently on here. I did order different keycap set that will have the 1U keys here, so they won't be these weird ones that are also the wrong height. So yeah, it's might be visible. I don't know, I'm gonna just go like that. But the profile of the keys actually does change, so that, because when you're typing like this, you know, they're different distances away. So the keys up top are actually taller than the keys down the bottom, and that's why these really don't fit. So that other keycap set, when it gets here and I put those in there, it'll all be the right height and have the right legends on them. Just trying to think if there's anything else. So yeah, I mean, this is, it really is nice. It's hot swap PCB, so you can change out not only the switches, but you also, because it's a PCB mount PCB, meaning I used one of these as an example. There's these 2 posts on either side of the center large piece. Those 2 posts need holes in the PCB, because this is a PCB mount switch, so you need PCB mount PCB, so it has those holes. If it doesn't have those holes, which the Drop Alt I mentioned earlier, you would have to clip those off, which it's not going to disrupt the operation of the key at all, but it does permanently change the key. By the way, there is no connection that I have to Drop here, just to NovelKeys, because as I said, they sent, not those, but all of this to me. And also, by the way, so in the NK65 Entry Edition, it includes the keyboard, not the switches or the keycaps. The Milkshake Edition will. Comes with this USB cable, which the plastic, it's not sticky, but it has a grip to it, and is kind of slick, kind of smooth. It is a USB-C connection, by the way, right here. And it does actually kind of snap in. It doesn't just slide in. It also has this card here, which tells us 2 things. One is make sure that the pins are straight. You really do need to make sure of that, because you could break the pins on the switch, and I actually have 2 here that I need to fix. They are completely fixable, don't worry. But also the hot swap socket can be pushed out and actually break off of the PCB if the pins are not straight. So make sure of that. And some of them were not straight, and I just used this tool that's in my iFixit kit. It's plastic. It's got a just flat wedge there, and I just went to straighten the pins. Very easy. So it's really not a chore to do that in any sense of the word, but it's something you want to check on and then fix. The other thing it says on this card is that it uses VIA. So the firmware on this is based on Qmk. It's an open source software. It's open source firmware that you change the key map, you need to flash it on here. Well, with VIA, you don't need to do the flashing. And the firmware already on it, you just, plug this in, plug it into your computer, start up VIA, and you'll be able to go in, test all the keys, do that when you finish building. Because it was this key, the switch, the pin actually did get bent. It didn't damage the socket, fortunately, but I did need to change out the switch. Otherwise, it wasn't being picked up. But you can go and you can do all that tweaking in VIA. You can change the LEDs. This does actually have per key RGB LEDs. They're south-facing, so they're not only going to light up these legends that well, but, is what it is. And there are some advantages to south-facing versus north-facing, and advantages north-facing to south-facing. It all varies. The Coolmaster keyboard is actually north-facing, so if I pull that out, the LED is right up here. And that is also RGB, by the way. But yeah, with VIA, you can go in and you can tweak all the stuff, basically, without having to flash anything. It's just like using the software for that Coolmaster keyboard that I just pulled out. But there is a lot more power if you do go into the source code for Qmk and start turning things on and off. For example, there is one key code I'd like to try called lock. It's literally KC_lock. And with it, let's say this is what's assigned to. So I press that. Now the next key I press, say space, I'm not touching anything, but it will continue to tell the computer that that key is being pressed until I press it again. So you sort of think of it as, do that and then shift. It's going to be like caps lock being on, except when I also type here, it'll be exclamation point, at, number sign, dollar sign, and so forth, until I hit the key again. That, however, cannot be enabled with VIA. It doesn't directly support it. You also have the Qmk Configurator. If the keyboard doesn't support VIA, this does, so no worries there. But the Qmk Configurator is a nice web interface to change the key map, have it compile source code for you, and then you flash it on there with the Qmk toolbox. But you can't enable something like KC lock with that. But you can compile it yourself with the stuff enabled, and I actually have, my laptop is off screen right here. I have it all set up on here, and at some point I will have an article going through doing all that, getting it set up, and actually compiling the code and then flashing it on there. Not too eager to do that on this because it has some special stuff to it. How it handles the RGBs is a little different than Qmk does normally. But it's something I will investigate, and I'm hoping to get some other hardware to build. It would actually be a 60% board, but it's a bit more standard with Qmk. It does also support VIA, so yeah, this is definitely a nice deal though. Yeah, let me just check because I wrote out the pricing. So $95 for this, the keycaps $45, the switches with the silk in it. Well, the silk yellows are 55 cents a piece. They were 70, so 38.50, and they come in packs of 10. The cream and the blueberry are both 65 cents, so $45.50. The jades are actually the cheapest at 34 cents, or $23.80. So basically, this build right here, $178.50. So that milkshake edition I mentioned of this, that is just about $12 more, because that's $190. But what's nice about it is when the entry edition first came out, they had, I think, 500. They were sold out in 1 minute. The milkshake edition, though, is going to be up for pre-order from September 18th to October 2nd. Yep. And those will be unlimited pre-orders because they're going to be manufactured between then and the January-February time that they're delivered. So if you get in on that pre-order, you're guaranteed to get it, and it will be complete. Now, you could also then, order yourself some creams and then have a tool like one of these, go through, take off the keycaps, take out the switches, put in different switches, or you could just keep to the yellows. That's actually, if you want to get started in custom mechanical keyboards, I think that's going to be a decent way to do it. Because yes, it is more expensive. $190. This right here, $178.50. This last year, because I checked the pricing of it, $90. I checked the pricing when it was sent to me. It was $90. So this right here is almost $100 more. It's more expensive, but it's, let me just tell you this, these keycaps feel nice. And by the way, that's also something I'd say, go ahead and get yourself, not necessarily these, I like these, but if you want to change up your keyboard without just going to a whole new keyboard, maybe look into new keycaps. It can really make a difference to the typing experience. But I like these keycaps, I like these switches. Like, they really do feel pretty nice. I am looking forward to trying others. But it's, you know, you have to invest more, but you can get more out of it. It's up to you, and it's something that is definitely very intriguing, and I'm looking forward to doing more experimentation with it. So with that said, we can get to the next parts, which were recorded already, and we'll go through actually putting some of these in, and putting in some of the switches, some of the keycaps, unboxing it, some sound stuff, so yeah, it'll all be fun. Alright, so this is going to be the third time I've done this, so the keycaps are different, but I'm going to be unboxing the NovelKeys NK65 Entry Edition, like it says there. Just slide that off. Tap there, and this, yeah, it does come with, I'm pretty sure these came with stickers and they didn't just throw that in the box. But this is the carrying case it comes in. And there would be a plastic bag here. I don't need that right now, so got rid of that. Open it up. It is a pretty nice carrying case, I think. And this isn't initially how it is packaged, but this is the USB cable you get, and it would be in here and also in its own plastic bag. But I find, let's see, it'll do it. If I have that in there and I go like that, it doesn't really want to close. So. But if I slide it in there and then the cable over, it fits fine. You also get this card in the box that tells you it uses the VIA software for interfacing with the firmware, and also that you want to make sure that when installing the switches that the pins are straight. Right, so the NK65, which is currently built, I put it all together, secured by these Velcro straps. I have this cutout here that it doesn't actually fully fit in. It might just be that this is a little variable from manufacturing. It happens. It's just, you know, a little too wide, so for me, this side is in, this side is resting on top. It still fits. It still all fits. It just probably makes the dealing with the cable a little worse. But it comes just like this, with the without keycaps, without the switches in there underneath. But USB port here. It is a polycarbonate case. We can cut that. And it is called N65 Purple, and I actually kind of like it. We got these silicone pads here to help keep it from moving. Set that to the side so that way it doesn't slide much. You can kind of see in here, and also from the edge, it's hard to see though, is that there's a silicone dampening pad that's fairly thick. It's basically filling up the space from the bottom of the case to where the PCB is. That's mainly it. One thing I did that I kind of like, and I think others find a useful tip. So yes, this uses the VIA software, so you can configure it all that way. But if you wanted to just have the firmware that you flash that isn't VIA, you can use something called the Qmk Configurator that lets you draw out the key maps and do all that. And you can also print it out, which I did here, and it fits quite nicely there. I think that's not a bad idea, so that way when you forget, because, well, I know I'm going to forget at some point, all the different things on the other 3 layers that keeping it there is going to be helpful. So we'll just put this all back together. So I have a little bit of reboxing. I slide in there like that. This cable over right there. You can also coil it long enough so it can be under both. And now Just the slack around the zipper is fine. So that's it. NovelKeys, aside from sending the NK65 kit and all that, also sent along some switches, which is important because, well, it doesn't come with switches normally. The Milkshake Edition does. That is coming out later. Alright, so they sent me 4 switches. I already have the thing assembled because I'm doing this all out of order. And it has these. These are the Silk Yellows. So they are a linear switch and they come factory lubed. And these 2 are in good shape. I have 2 more that the pins are badly bent and cannot be used in the keyboard, so I'm keeping those separate so we can fix them later. Another linear that they sent me is the NovelKey Cream. So this is actually, I think NovelKey designed. It's made by Kale. It's actually printed on the housing there. But these are linears and pretty popular. They are not lubed, and just like when doing this, I can feel that. It's like here, I can tell that there's a friction from the stem moving against the housing. Whereas with the silks, no, I don't feel that. Oh, and that's actually interesting. So it does have the NovelKey logo on this housing. So they did, in fact, they're manufactured by JWK, I want to say. But NovelKey apparently had a hand in designing those as well. So probably might also be exclusive. I'm not sure. I haven't checked exclusivity on all these things. The creams, though, are NovelKey designed, so they would be exclusive. And I will get to testing those eventually. Here we have the NovelKey Blueberry. So again, NovelKey designed. These are tactile. And, I mean, they really are tactile. Pushing this against the Gateron Browns in the Cooler Master CK550, also tactile switch. Yeah, I bottom out the Gateron Brown switch in those with this before it gets depressed. It's very tactile, which is the whole point of doing this. And trying out the different switch types to see how they really are different. And things you can get when you build versus what you get with pre-builds. And by the way, these right here, I took apart these switches. So I'm going to go through those a little bit. But I first want to finish covering these, this is the Kale Box Jade. So this is not only a tactile switch, it does have a tactile bump there, but it's also clicky. Here. And it works a little differently than, say, Cherry MX Blues. The MX Blues use a a jacket, click jacket, that's it. Not key jacket, click jacket. This uses a click bar. And I already have one taken apart right here. And don't worry, I can reassemble this quite easily. They're kind of designed to be. Yeah, the yellows, they come factory lubed, but you can also open them up and lube them. Well, you wouldn't lube those yourself. They already come lubed. But there's also dry yellows that you can get from NovelKeys where you can go in and lubricate it yourself. It uses Krytox 205G0, I believe. So this is the Kale Box Jade taken apart. And in case you're wondering, so here's the stem. And yeah, it's got this box right around the center stem piece there that holds the keycap. That's why they're called box jades, right? No. This is why. This is right here. This is actually a sealed box. If I grab this, so these are the bottom housings. This is for the blueberry. This is for the box jade. You can see right here that metal piece there. That's a leaf. There's 2 leaves, one here, one right there. It's a little hard to see though. Those are what actually close the circuit, saying, hey, the key was pressed. And as you can see with the blueberry, it was exposed. Here in the box jade, though, it's actually inside of this box here. So I could potentially pop. Oh, I just did. I didn't realize it would come off that easily. So in here, the leaves are right in there, and this little green piece that comes through gets hit by the leg of the stem. In fact, that leg. The stem has 2 legs on it. One is for hitting the click bar over there, one is for hitting that piece. But yeah, so when that gets pressed in, it will cause the circuit to close. I hope I get this on right. Uh-oh, that's falling apart. this way? Yeah, there. Yeah, so that actually came off much more easily than I thought it would, but went on fine once I got the orientation right. So right here, there's a bar. It's actually a spring, and push down on it, charges up energy, snaps back, and that's what produces the click sound. I put this all back together, minus the top housing. We have that leg on the other side, and clicks there, and actually clicks when coming up as well. So you have down and upstroke clicks with this, whereas with a click jacket, it will be just on the downstroke. It's not on the upstroke. Well, if I reassemble it, I can make sure that orientation is correct, because they are asymmetrical. There is a specific direction you're supposed to do that in. Alright, so let's look at the Blueberry now. So we already saw the bottom housing. The main thing I want to show here, and yeah, the spring is just in there, is this. So on the stem here, we have this right here. I'm pretty sure the name of that is a leg. That's also what I was calling them on the box Jade. But this is what is responsible for two things. One is, and this is the case for the legs here and in the linear switch, is for separating the two leaves so that the circuit is open, no key press. But it's also, we have this bump here. That's the tactile bump. That is what you're actually feeling, is the force of the leaves trying, pushing together, and you're having to push them apart because this bump actually, there's a sort of a divot right here. That's where the resting position will be, right there. So you keep pushing and you have to push up, separating the leaves more, you feel that, and then it finally comes down. That's how you get the tactility there. So it would be like this, and yeah, you can see the leaves having enough pressure to actually hold the stem there when the spring is not also pushing out. And there are so many different tactile switches because you can just change the shape of that leg. So there are some that are more rounded, so it's a long tactile bump, some that are short and very sharp, so it's like that, obviously without so much noise. It just depends on what you're looking for. Then here is the cream linear. I didn't take apart one of the silks. And it have the leg here, and it's completely smooth. It is just a straight line there. It's linear. So, depressing that, it's you don't feel it so much. And we still have the leaf holds it in, but there is more space that can move because it's linear. It doesn't have that bump there that forces it into one spot. But yeah, so that's basically a quick coverage of how linear, tactile, and clicky work. Though the clicky being a box design does make it a little different. In fact, its click bar is also a little different. Oh, and it's over there. For anyone wondering on pricing, the box Jades from NovelKeys, 34 cents a piece. They come in packs of 10, so $3.40. For the 70 that was sent, so that's 69 here, one there, $23.80. The blueberries and the NovelKey creams here, same price for both, 65 cents a piece, so $6.50 for an order of 10. So that comes to $45.50. And also this, they both have a operating force, so the key is depressed when there is at 55 grams of force. The tactile switch here though, it's 80 grams peak force. No, 70 grams peak force, it's 80 grams bottom out. So pushing the switch all the way down is at 80, but just overcoming that tactile bump is 70. The linear switch here though, 55 grams to operate, 70 grams is the bottom out. And yeah, so 70 of them is $45.50 at NovelKeys, 65 cents a switch. And the yellows, which they're already installed in the NK65, are 55 cents each, so that's $38.50 for the 70. 45 grams of operating force, 63.5 grams to bottom out. So a much lighter switch than the creams. But hey, if that's what you want. I'm probably more for heavy switches myself. Just I type pretty heavy. But you know, I want to try it first because this is what's going to be in that NK65 milkshake edition. So that way, you know, like what I have minus the keycaps, because it's going to be a little bit different, being double shot PBT as opposed to die sub PBT. But aside from that, it should be an identical experience. And hey, if you want to get started, want to get in custom account keyboards, want to get started with an NK65, I'm being completely honest here, not trying to promote something. The Milkshake Edition looks like a pretty good way to do that because you'll be able to get in. It's unlimited pre-orders. $109, yes, it is kind of expensive compared to a pre-built, but if you want to get started, that's probably a good place. It's going to have everything you need. You'll be good to go, and it's still the hot swap board, so you can always change out the switches later if you want. So, yeah, I mean, it's up to you. It's always up to you. You could also decide, no, I want to go for something a bit more advanced, where it's like, oh, I want this PCB from this manufacturer, this plate from this manufacturer, this case from this manufacturer. Put it all together yourself. That is also an option. Might be a little bit more expensive. It depends. So here is the NK65. As you can see, it's actually mostly built because the cameras failed us before and need to redo it. But I wanted to show putting in the switches and also actually taking out these two. Now I've got two tools for that. So this can pull switch, as can this. I find this a little bit easier. You just reach in there and pull and hope it doesn't go flying too far. This one, it does like to send them flying. But I caught that one. This one, because of how it grips up there, probably shouldn't go flying, but it's just, I find the other a bit more comfortable. So yeah, held right onto it. So both these tools work very nicely for pulling out switches. This, you get them in a 2-pack, and it's like $8, $9 on Amazon. This, $5, and it's also got for pulling this keycaps. Personally, I like the one that came with the Cool Master keyboard. Anyway, so these are the silk yellows. So they are lubed linears. And this, so how they were in there before worked fine because this is a hot swap board, which means they're right here and right here. Instead of it being holes that I would need to solder these pins to, it's a special socket that can accept these pins, grip onto them, and complete the circuit as needed. And it's also, we've got the center hole here on the PCB, which is what this portion goes into, and we've got holes on both sides, which is for these. This is a PCB mount switch, and this PCB can take that. You can also have PCBs that lack those holes, in which case I would need to clip off these pieces. Don't want to do that because that alters the switch, but don't need to here. But when those are missing, it's a plate mount switch. So it's the plate, that piece right there, that is aluminum on this one. That is what holds the switch in place. Now, you do need to be careful when putting these in to make sure that the pins are straight. And except for 2 of them, all of them that are in this bag were in there. And so these are straight, so I can just, carefully make sure it's lined right in. That keycap a little bit in the way, should pull that off, but not too bad. If you don't check to make sure they are straight, you can damage the socket as in actually pushing it off, breaking it off of the PCB, and hopefully you can figure out a way to get that fixed. Maybe NovelKeys can help you, and if they are unable to help you, maybe you can solder it yourself. So this switch, the end of the pin is bent right at the end, so I can probably fix that fairly easily. This one, though, I actually did put in, it was actually this key, and apparently it wasn't straight, but fortunately it did not damage the PCB. It's going to be hard to see. The pin is completely a half circle there, so completely useless right now. Should be able to fix it there. Okay, this one's also straight. That's the other one I pulled out. So just basically put it in there straight, done. So yeah, make sure you do check that the pins are straight, but you set it in there straight, done. It's very simple, and they do just snap right into place. There. And when I was encountering, when I was first putting this all together, any pins that weren't straight, No, it was this. I just used this end of this tool. It's, I think, nylon. It's part of my iFixit toolkit that I've been using for this. It's very simple. There. There. A lot easier going in than coming out, but it's not that hard getting them out either. And one thing I did notice when I was testing these two tools a few days ago is that once you've taken them out once, it's a lot easier to pull them out again, which I think is just, so there's a clip here and a clip here that holds the switch in place on the plate. And I think it's just, it's plastic, so once you deform it once, it's just a little bit easier to deform after that. But it does go back to its right position. Though I did have one switch where that actually didn't happen, and I just needed to like reach in there with this and just, yeah, it was on this side, just doop, pop it back. That one's actually almost like that. Okay, so that's now fully populated switches. I could plug this in, and without keycaps, still be able to use it. But also test, make sure that it all works. I did that before. All these went in fine, so I'm sure they're still fine. So just need to put these back in, the keycaps I had taken off. So for the caps lock, yes, it is a wider key, but we don't need the stabilizer. You can just line that, put it on. Perfect. For the enter key, it is wide enough that it does need the stabilizer there. And they're the nice cherry style stabilizers, so that's it. It's not like it has one of the wire stabilizers where you have to clip it in. In case you're wondering, why did I have all 3 rows here decapped, but only the center one did I pull the switches out from? Because, yeah, I'll do it with the Q here. These tools are hard to get in there and navigate when the keycaps are in place. So that's all. Alright, there. There. So these keycaps, because they have the cherry cross on the stem to it's down here, to mount the keycaps on. It's like these all, you know, will work together, no problem. There are actually other designs for holding them there. But these are also the OEM profile, so good height. There are different profile switches, different profile keycaps, some more extreme than others. There we go. Yeah. I know, I'm just kind of vamping. So over here is where the switch goes, the shift goes, which normally would be this, but as you can see, the arrow keys don't have enough space for this one. Fortunately, this set does come with a shorter shift, because it's in part designed for, since this is the drop Skylight series keycaps, they're actually designed to work with their own keyboards, and the drop alt is also 65%. It is different here though, so yeah, print screen, screen lock, pause, they don't actually belong down here. But it's, I don't have the, yeah, I'm just going to take one of them off so you can see. So these are 1U wide. Actually, I'll take all of them off. Whereas, like the Alt and other 65% PCBs would take these. These are 1.25U, but as you can see, they don't all, it wouldn't all fit in there, so I can't use them. Keycaps that I have coming, though, should include the 1U widths there. And the thing is that the profile for them here, I'll take this one off. I don't know if it shows up well in this view. But you can see how the arrow key is a lot shorter than the pause key here. I have this backwards, don't I? Yep. Pause goes here. I want to keep the order anyway. Yeah, so the profiles of the keys actually changes depending on the row you're in. So these are very much not the right ones here, but I don't have the proper caps for them yet. Hopefully it won't be long before those arrive. And it's also why it's in the other tray. This set comes in 2 trays, but there's actually 2 homes, 2 page up, 2 page down, 2 end keys, because they need to be the different profiles for the different rows. Because on a 10 key list, for example, these will be in the traditional group of 6 that form the navigation keys. Okay, plenty of time. It's out of frame, but I have the laptop there to record the audio. Now, one thing that is also worth noting, so yeah, besides it being, we got the 1U keys there, so you need to make sure you have 1U keycaps for them. These are also south-facing switches, so that means, unfortunately they're already covered up, but the LED is down here, whereas a north-facing switch, the LED is up here and the whole switch is then turned around. Some keycaps, they are a certain profile that when you depress them, the cap will actually hit the switch. That's not all profiles though. These are the OEM profile, they work fine. It's like the cherry profile, which also means that the GMK keycaps, because they use the same molds as the original cherry, those may hit this, so you need to pay attention to that if you look for keycap sets. But yeah, one disadvantage though to it being south facing is, notice the legends there on the north side. So these are in fact shine through, so when the LEDs are on, especially if the LEDs were up here, the legends would be illuminated. And that you can find north facing, you can find south facing PCBs if you want to build completely from scratch, as opposed to something like this NK65 where it basically came complete. It was only missing the switches and keycaps. And also one other thing that makes the NK65 kind of special, it has 3 LEDs here, so like the top one, if I plug this in, hit caps lock, that top one will be lit up. And you can actually turn that on and off, that's an option. The other 2 are to identify what layer you're on. So with none on, you'll be on layer 0, which I have a printout of what that is. And it's basically just the normal layout, all the letter keys, the number keys up here. Not print, screen, scroll, lock, or pause, but for me, I actually did change this. Basically FN key, momentary layer 1, so if I hit that, then I'm momentarily going to be on layer 1, which makes these like F1, F2, F3, and so forth. This is the menu key, because I actually do use that. The NK65 normal layout, this is momentary, this is Alt, and then this is Control, and I'm leaving that as Control, because I use Control and I use menu, so I Control End, Control Left, Control Right. It's very useful when typing documents. But I like, just like, oh, the word says there's a typo. Go over, select that, hit menu, and now I can just navigate in the menu to tell it, yes, change to this or ignore. So this is the Cooler Master CK550 with its original keycaps here, and these are the double shot PBT keycaps I ordered. They're the Drop Skylight series in white. You can get them in different colors. And this, I just want to show how they actually do sound different. There's a different sound to them. Some of them might be because it's PBT versus, I think, ABS. I could very easily be wrong. That makes some sense to me. But also, these are thicker. These are much thicker keys than these are. So let's just give it a listen. I hear a pinging with these I don't hear with these. And that isn't just location, because I had this whole board basically, I mean not every key, but most of the alpha keys replaced here, and I did not hear the ping with the double shot, but I do hear it here with these. Yeah. And some of that, as I was saying, might be material, some of it might also just be that it's heavier. And of course, also check out the long ones. Because these are also on stabilizers, whereas these are not, they're just on the key themselves. Same with these are on the keys themselves.